further to the points that I made in the previous video about the kind of spiritual and philosophical journey that I took and am still taking. Well, first, I'm at home. I don't even have all my kids asleep. I mean, I would love to have a banging type of YouTube channel, but I think setting the bar too high prevents you from making a step to reaching that point, which is my long caveat of saying I might get interrupted. You might hear some background noise or voices. Um, there, I really think there's a kind of curiosity that you have when you're young, and lust and greed, let's say, ambition are, I won't say side effects of that. I think they are misinterpretations of the curiosity that a person has inside, right? Because when you're young, you're in that unique position of knowing that you don't know. And that's kind of the way that that stage of life, youth, is defined. You don't know. So it's so easy to allow yourself to be curious and to act, like actively take steps towards something that is really undefined for you because people allow you that space. They kind of feel like you're supposed to be on a journey that you're not exactly clear about as far as its destination. And you kind of have that humility within yourself. At the same time, the drive to get things can be, that can be a dumbed down version of it, and then you're just being greedy. You know, that kind of will to force yourself to make something happen or make something out of yourself is ambition. And that's kind of, again, I think you even misreading the curiosity that you have. And um, I think like lust as well. I mean, the, you know, the desire to try things obviously translates into physically trying those things. And no one can deny the pleasure, of sex or even drugs and, things that just give you a pleasurable physical sensation. And I think that curiosity really is something that is purer than all of those things. And I think it's greater than all of those things. And I am probably someone who allowed myself to be curious and just leave it at that. I certainly was never really ambitious, um, not really greedy. I mean, I'm not saying I was perfectly non ambitious or non greedy, but lustful, yes. I mean, I just wanted to get into it. And again, I think that was really like a dumbed down, narrowed down version of curiosity that I deeply felt inside. So that at one point, I remember I decided, and I'm going to go back to when I was in Sydney, I decided that I'm going to finish school, I'm going to go to grad school, and I'm going to study Sanskrit, ancient Greek, and ancient Hebrew, because those are the oldest languages I can think of. And, you know, they, those languages, if God ever spoke to humanity, then, I want to read it myself. And I'm assuming if I learned the oldest languages possible, I could find you know, uh, the language in which the speaking originally happened. And I don't think that those are the oldest languages that are, still accessible, but those are the oldest languages that I could think of. So I had this idea that, there was a God, and at some point, he must have communicated to humanity, you know, and that what I wanted was to know that directly. I don't think anyone really taught me this. I mean, I certainly grew up in an environment where there was this concept of there having been revelation and prophets and stuff like that. But I mean, that wasn't really. So yeah, there was this notion that like the Bible is the Word of God, right? Growing up, but like I said, I didn't really buy into that. So I kind of have these independent ideas that, at the end of the day, may coincide with some established ideas. So I had that. I mean, and I remember that being a very clear thought in my mind and a very clear intention. Of course, I probably made a lot of intentions, but I think just the fact that I had that, that decision was the culmination of, some kind of mental wanderings and stuff like that. So that's one place that I was in my life. On the other hand, I think I just got caught up in the life. I mean, getting a lot of attention thrown at you, people throwing themselves at you, um, just wanting to feel something, liking what you felt, maybe almost wanting to get the feeling next time. I think is a lot more of that, if you're really honest, that you're not getting what you want, but you're thinking that you might get closer, or you're thinking that you might give it another chance. And so I really, I partied a lot, I clubbed a lot. I just, I won't even go into all the stories, but the stories that could take you somewhere rather than just being, you know, interesting recollections might be, I met a guy once in Sydney, this Ghanaian, Australian guy named Duke, and he was like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a student. What about you?" And he said, "Well, I'm a club promoter." I'm like, "What's that?" He said, "When you go to a club, you pay money to get in, right?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That's my money." And I was like, "What? You get paid to party?" I'm like, "I party better than anybody." Like, people be calling me at parties, talking about, "When are you gonna come?" Because it don't really start till you get there. So I'm like, I, I could like get paid doing that. Like, what would be better, right? Make make a living doing what I love, right? So yeah, we had a few good nights. Like, I mean, just being a really young dude trying something for the first time, making almost $1,000, just literally like the first attempt, kind of almost is like inspiring. Like, oh my God, like I could really do this. Like, I could do nothing but party my whole life. Like, you know, the fear of, what if I have to like get serious about life because I can't just party? I'm like, well, I'm sidestepping that, right? So yeah. So then, like I said, you just really, really, really get deep into it. But like, I mean, a lot of it's so fake. Like I remember, like it's just like people schmoozing and cheesing and stuff like that. And I used to think, like, if I ever got sick and went to the hospital, how many of these people would come and visit me? I didn't get that, didn't actually happen, but I already knew, like, nah, like this isn't real. You know, like people. I went to a club with one dude, and he was like, who's this guy like jumping all over you? Like some guy literally is just like jumping all over me. I was like, yo, man, like chill out. Like, hi, like, how are you? He's like, who is this guy? Just like, how can you just walk into a club and people just like know you so much and they're jumping all over you? I'm like, look, I don't even know that dude. The only time I ever met him was when someone who I won't name took his girl around the corner from a club we was in. Well, this guy's girlfriend, and they got like basically busy out in the open and came back in. So I'm like, hey, this ain't even a dude that like he don't know me, and I don't think he wants to know me. He don't want to know what I know. Let's put it that way. Like it's fake, you know what I mean? Um, but as that went further as a so-called lifestyle or career, I was promoting more and more clubs. I mean, we had a crew together. Like we had the best DJ, on the turntables still that I've ever heard or met or seen, period. Probably just one of the best instrumentalists that I've actually ever met. Um, and we were, we had like two different MCs. we had two twins as our dancers. So we basically had like these two Turkish twins, like dancers. So like we had like a whole stage show going, and the whole thing was like, we run the whole night at your club. All you got to do is just basically pay us the rate that we want. And the idea was to basically like make it a regular thing and stuff like that. So one of those nights, this story is actually going somewhere. One of those nights, it was actually our first night at a place. It was outside Sydney, like kind of in the suburbs, but like we were new, trying to like get a name, it's at least get money, work our way into bigger things. Um, and so as the promoter, like I'm kind of inside, outside, meeting the owner, checking on the bar, how much is it doing, blah blah blah. And I was outside at one point, just checking the line, and this dude was like, "Hey man, are you running this night?" I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, we got kicked out because I was wearing a hat. Like, kind of clubs have this dress code about, like, I mean, not exactly not urban wear, but like not too casual. And I said, all right, well, what exactly happened? Like, the bouncer asked you to leave. Like, did you say anything to him or did you just leave? He's like, no, we just left. I said, you didn't say F you or nothing? He was like, no, we just left. That's what one guy was saying. The other guy, there was two guys, right? Was just like, I mean, I remember his head was going back and forth. He was like so angry. I was like, yo, chill out, man. If you didn't do nothing, I'll get you back in. Just like, let me talk to the bouncer. Like, I'm the man, right? I'll talk to him. So I went to the bouncer. I said, look, this guy didn't know about the dress code. When you asked him to leave, he didn't argue. He won't wear a hat. So can they go back in? Bouncer said, okay. So I'm back to those guys. Look, man, come on in. So then what? The same dude that was kind of flipping out was like, hey, man, since you did me a favor, I'm going to do you a favor. There's a hit out on you. And I'm like, what? This is a little dude. Never met him before. And, but I'm always in the habit of kind of like taking people seriously. Like, I don't just like write people off or prejudge. Like, you look like this or you don't look that like that. So I'm just seeing you this way. Like, I look for what I see in a person that's definite before I kind of form an opinion or a classification, right? I'm like, he's serious, so he believes what he's saying. It doesn't mean it's true, but he certainly believes it. So I'm like, man, well, like, what do you mean? And he was like, there's a hit out on you. And I'm like, all right, well, like, let's go talk about it because I have no idea what you're talking about. So we actually went around the corner, me and these two dudes, and he said, there's a hit out on you, and I'm supposed to do it. And I'm like, all right, man, like, what is actually going on? And he said, you stole something from one of us. And by us, he meant the kind of Lebanese Australian community because they probably came in large numbers around the 80s during a civil war in Lebanon. So there are actually like a lot of Lebanese of all descriptions, obviously, like, a lot of Christians actually. People don't know that there are Arab Christians, but there are. And this guy said that when I had visited the club earlier to meet the manager, one of the employees was another Lebanese Australian, and his bag had gone missing, and he blamed it on me. And I'm thinking, well, obviously I didn't steal his bag, but what happened is he was 18, he had a few $100s cash, a brand new phone, and he was about to start school using that cash to buy books, like within a month or so. And so I could understand the anger, but I'm like, look, I had nothing to do with that. Like, I didn't even go in. I walked in. I asked where the owner was. There were some guys all the way, basically, like I walked in the back. They were at the front where the stage is. I asked if the owner was in. They said yes, or they said no, whichever one it was. So where I can't remember if the guy was actually there or not, but I either went to meet him or went back out. But I only part I remember this many years later is that I didn't go in to where they were. So I said, look, man, like, I think there's been a misunderstanding. It's like this, he's like that. It's like this, it's like that. He's like, no, no, like, he started flipping out again, like, you think you can like do this to us? You think I'm playing? You think I'm a joke? Blah, 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 blah. You think I won't do it? And his friend, like these dudes that I just helped get in the club, his friend didn't pull a gun out, but he showed it. Like, we have a gun right now, right? And I didn't like freak out or panic. It wasn't like my leg was shaking and I didn't like, like your face melting, you start begging for your life. I just said, look, um, like I respect what you're saying. I'm not trying to argue with you, but why don't we have a sit down? And I think it's a misunderstanding. I'm sure that if I talk to him, and even if you're there, you will be convinced that whatever has been said doesn't involve me, like, or it's not true. So I was like real calm about it. I mean, probably the smoothest I ever talked, and maybe I'm known as a smooth talker, but if I am not known as that, I would have earned that title that day, let's say, right? And so it was agreed, okay, but you don't say a word to him, right? Like, I'll get back in touch with you. So the night went on, basically finished as normal. But I had that hanging over me while I'm smiling and doing whatever with all these other people. And, I mean, long story short, like, it got sorted out in the sense that this guy is not involved in the gang life like the one whose bag got stolen. He didn't say it was me, but he mentioned me as a possibility, and it was just taken from there. Now, this other little dude, as it turns out, was a bona fide gangster, and I know that because someone else I knew from the club life had ordered a stolen car from the mob, basically. And they said, we can get you whatever car you want. You name the car, the type, you can even name the year, you can name the color. It'll come, but you better have the money. Sure enough, the car came. They didn't have the money. So, like I said, I knew not the guy who made the order, but like someone that he was managing. He said, "Man, they came in our hotel with automatics. Like they knew what hotel room we were in, and they knew how to get in there. However, that is done because that mob, you know what I mean, with automatic guns, like these dudes don't play. So I felt like, man, look, this is a gang thing, it's a racial thing, it's a nationality thing. You know what I mean? Like minorities that live in their communities don't like to feel violated, and like they don't really like black dudes anyway. You know what I'm saying? Um, like if you later in life, I can learn how to understand Arabic. Like I know what these dudes be saying. You know what I mean? So anyway, I thought, yeah, maybe one guy who really seems unhinged says that it's cool. But what about everyone else who heard this story? What if they didn't hear the rest of the story? That now, the other guy said that it wasn't me that stole his bag and blah, 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 blah. And he never said it was me that stole his bag. I'm like, I could walk around anywhere, anytime and get got. You know what I mean? Because these dudes are serious. So I just, I actually got on a train and I just rode. There's kind of a, like there's the intercity trains that like will take you out of town. I just rode that train as far as I could. It's a place called Dubbo, right? And it was just the end of the line, and I was like, man, I just got to get as far away as I can. Now that wasn't really a plan. That was really just a panic move, and people might think I'm overreacting. I'm like, look, I got a gun pulled on me. You know what I'm saying? So uh, then I thought, well, what am I gonna do in Dubbo? Like this don't even make sense, right? So when while I was there, I decided to book a flight to Perth, which is across the country. Like Sydney is on the east coast, like on the Pacific Ocean. Perth is on the west coast on the Indian Ocean. So it's basically like a straight line across the country. And Australia is almost as big as the US. So that was like the last money I had, really. Um, and I just thought, well, I'll be safe there and I'll figure out the rest. I mean, I knew a bit about backpacking, so that actually was somewhat of a plan. When I got to Sydney, I'm sorry, when I got to Perth, in the airport they have these kind of, it looks like a payphone, but it only rings the hotel that like the the cord of this particular phone is next to a screen. That screen has a particular establishment. It might be a hotel or something else. This one was a youth hostel. And they said, oh, we do first 3 nights for 20 bucks. And then after that, it's 10 bucks a night. So I thought, well, usually people who are backpacking work and the hostels help them find work, just like being a glassy at a bar or doing farm work, that type of thing. So I just picked up this phone because it was free, called they and I asked, do you help people find work? They said yes. I said, all right, I'm gonna go there and I'll see if I find work, maybe they'll let me pay once I get paid, that sort of thing. Hostels are a little bit casual like that. It's all backpackers and stuff from all over the world. It's kind of like a big community, everybody trusts each other type of thing. By the time I got there, so I got in a taxi cab, and this really was like the absolute last of my money. I got to the hostel. They said, oh, did you just call about work? I said, yeah. They were like, well, someone called. He's looking for someone with muscles and a brain. I'm like, well, you can see how big I am. So, and it worked out pretty good. I was probably making the most money out of any backpacker ever. Um, but during that stay for a few weeks, I met a Dutch guy, and he basically said, look, I bought a car in Sydney. I'm driving one lap around Australia. I finished my master's degree. I have a good job offer that I've accepted, but I just feel like I haven't done, you know, I haven't like proven myself as a man, and I want to do that first before I just like settle into life and like everything just becomes monotonous. And I said, yeah, man, like I feel that, like I feel like I haven't done that like real test and proving of myself. So I said, I will join you on the rest of this trip, which was really far because you got to go all the way up to the top of Western Australia, all the way across Australia and all the way back down. And I didn't have enough money saved up for that whole trip. But he said, oh, don't worry, man. Like, we do farm work, whatever, whatever. I said, all right. So, me, him, and this German British couple, we did it. And that was when I really got to not just have these moments of, something shocking you about nature to make you think, like, is this who I really am? Like, am I disconnected from my essence? But actual, like, connection with that essence. And I think it's almost like saying you feel your place as just another aspect of the universe. You are, this is reality and you're a part of it. You're just kind of disconnecting it yourself with artificial things that you build and involve yourself you know. And like I said in the previous video, like there were times when the only sign that humans had ever existed were us. I mean, there was no tower in the distance that you could see, no mechanical whir in the background from far off, like nothing but the sea, the sand. The only thing that we could see that humans had made was our car, you know? No cell phone signal. I mean, we could have been like traveled back in time with our cell phones on because there ain't no signal. Like, what would you do if you go back 50 years and you somehow still have a smartphone? Like, there wouldn't be nothing there. I mean, our only TV was the sunset and sunrise. Like, we would actually say, let's go see the sunrise, let's go see the sunrise. That's the sunset. And like, that's what we do. We go to the beach and just like watch it go down and look at the clouds. And we'd actually comment on it like you comment on a basketball game. You know what I mean? Just walking, climbing. Like, I saw frogs that were so small, they could jump on the water as if like they could bounce on the water, you know. It's weird, but it wasn't until I was 20 on a different trip to Europe that I had ever seen clear water for the first time. I mean, like natural water that was like clear. And I remember I was asking my friends that I was backpacking with, and I said, what is this? I actually asked, like, what is this? They said, it's the sea, you know? I mean, it was like crystal clear water. It wasn't blue, not blue green, not the puke brown, whatever vomit color of the rivers in New York. And then we were at a certain place where we were rowing out on a pond. It was a pond, crystal clear. And we could see like as far as your eyesight and the light could penetrate to the bottom, you know. And I thought like this moment should last forever. Like it's not even like I should be it's not that I shouldn't cherish this, but like it shouldn't be something that strikes me. Like this is what life is supposed to be. Like we're human beings on this earth. We should experience it as it is. Like whatever we find on earth is so much greater than anything that we can create. You know, whatever we manage to not ruin. I mean, that's how negative we are. That it's just like you try to find a place that humans haven't ruined yet. And why? Because what has been created for us is better than what we create for ourselves. And that to me was a real, I mean, devoid of anything, stripped of anything, encounter with reality. Just staring at the stars and seeing them all, all the animals we would see, just meeting so many people, just different types of people from all over the world. Even Australians, like hippies, Aboriginal Australians, like just it 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 just struck me like I was so convinced in an active way, not just like okay, if you ask me, yes or no, and I have to circle a box, do you believe in God? I would have circled the yes box. I'm like, no, like I actively believe, like I am experiencing creation. I'm experiencing this as a message from the creator, like the creation itself is a message, right? Like this is a message from the creator. And at the same time, as a comment on my upbringing, I was like, but nothing is telling me that like he has a son and his son died for our sins, but that was also him. And, ultimately a lot of that is just a sort of, you know, uh, almost mashup between, Jewish theology and Greek philosophy. I mean, it literally is, but that's a much deeper point. So but the thought that struck me after this was, and I'm not doing anything about it. Like, this is the reality, the truth. Like, not the things that come from it. Like, if this is true, then that is required or that is true. I'm like, no, this is the beginning of that the theorem, like the given that this is true. I'm like, this is that which is true, the creator, and this obligation on me to do, like to worship, like to worship. And I had this need, this instinct to worship. I think even from birth. I remember my brother and I used to actually be like on our hands and knees, and like we would rub our heads into our pillows, like kind of, like just crouched down and doing this, and we would kind of chant, like, I still remember doing that. I have no idea what it could have even been, because I'm talking about like before school age, like something when we were 4 or 3. I mean, I just don't know where it came from, you know. But more recently than that, and more contemporaneous with the time that I'm discussing, I remember I went a whole month. I mean, this is in the middle of like partying and stuff. Like I said, like this curiosity kind of, which can be diverted into lust or ambition or greed, etc. Same time I'm partying, it's like I was fasting, like, but it was my own idea. It was my own idea, like nothing to do with Islam, but I just thought, I will fast for a month. Like I won't drink any. I won't take any uh, solid food for a month. Like only liquid. I mean, even if I have to melt something, like I will only take liquid for like a full month. I mean, you know, uh, and I did, and then and then it was like something I did like 1 month from day to night and 1 month from night to day, like this limitation or restriction. And I mean, it's not that I hadn't ever taken a course about Islam, like just in it, like I said, in the academic sense, but perhaps subconsciously some knowledge of Ramadan was there, but I didn't read about Ramadan more than in a very, very sort of kind of a summary of a summary of what Islam is. Somewhere that, oh yeah, there's a month where they do this. So like it just wasn't even something that I would have remembered beyond perhaps at the subliminal level. So I really just think it was like for me, it felt like an instinct, like it was just something that I wanted to try. And I remember I used to wake up, I used to go to the sea, wash in a certain way, just like kind of like wash myself in sea water and pray, but like not like a sort of a unit of prayer, but just like actually pray, like say something to God. I can't remember what exactly I would say. And it was just like more and more of my life was when I came back from this trip and I finally made it back to Sydney. I mean, I was a different person. I wasn't tripping on nobody or trying to like, act like a guru. Like I have had an enlightening experience and always trying to correct people. It was just I wasn't even thinking about like, I mean, going out at night hurt me literally because I was going to bed at sunset, waking up at sunrise, or at least when the sun, made it too hot to try to be lying in a tent. Couldn't stay up late with all those bright lights and just all the fakery and just it just wasn't even in me anymore. You know what I mean? Um, it just really wasn't there. So I mean, I would kind of do like a house party type of chill type thing, but just I wasn't even thinking that way anymore. Like like chasing women or being chased or just loving the chase itself. It just it I guess one thought that I had was if I let go of everything in my life, like even my clothes, like there were times when like I basically had almost nothing to wear because I said if you let go of everything, whatever you see again is what's really part of you or what's really part of your life. Like if you throw everything up, not everything's gonna land back on you. You know what I mean? And a lot of that stuff just wasn't me. You know. But what was me? It was kind of like I'm not just gonna like make up my own religion, but it's not like oh I believe in God and I really want to like have a conviction to follow. And I think a lot of people have that experience. They flee to most likely what they had once fled from. They just go back to what's familiar. This is what I know as being God or God's religion. So so they just kind of just go back to their old tradition. And I'm like, but didn't you see the point? Like, I'm not going to follow a person. I want to follow God like directly. And there is a probably something for another episode where I might talk about how I felt that I found something that I know is from God, untempered and like direct, and a way of following that doesn't feel like it's really a personality cult of, me sitting in front of a preacher and saying, well, I could say that. I mean, if I read the Bible and sat down and like tried to put something together and I had a whole week to do it, like I could create a sermon. Like um, I'm a practiced public speaker. Like I've worked in marketing. I know how to give presentations. So I'm like, why would I follow someone who's just doing what I do? I want to follow God, like from the source. I don't want to just, take it from someone else. I'd just be following another person, So that was a real issue because it's just like, I'm not going to create my own religion because I wouldn't accept that someone else has created a religion. But like, what is the true way. I believe in God, and I know that something is required of me. And it's not like an obligation, like, oh, I have a duty and I feel like, you know, uh, you know, encumbered and burdened and I feel shame. It was more like, I want to reach out and connect. Like, I hear the message and like, I want to respond, you know? So I'll try to get into that later. I think this video has gone on long enough.